Thank you. We'd like to welcome everyone to our first meeting of 2024 of the Centerville City Council, being held here at Centerville City. We have some exciting things happening tonight. We just had a reception for 2 outgoing council members, and we will be swearing in 2 incoming council members, as well as a council member that's continuing on. We welcome friends and family that are here, both in the audience and that may be joining by Zoom as well too. So thank you for being here. We hope you all had a wonderful holiday. The holidays are a chance for us to get together as friends and families, and hopefully you're able to reflect on a bit on these freedoms that we enjoy, being able to get together like this and conduct a free government. So we thank again the outgoing council members, Councilman McEwen, Councilman Ince, and for their great service and what they rendered to us. So I don't know what we want to make sure that we can conduct business. So we will do a roll call starting with Councilwoman Meekum.
Meekum present.
Summer Hayes present.
Heyman present, Plummer present, they're not sworn in yet. And Councilwoman Hurst, are you joining us?
Hurst present.
Okay. Councilwoman Hurst is feeling under the weather. Didn't want to expose everyone to that, but she has joined us by Zoom. So we have all council members present, so we can conduct business. Councilwoman Hurst has asked, with her not being here, if I would give the legislative prayer or thought, so I'll give a prayer at this time. Our Heavenly Father, we're very grateful for all our many blessings. We're thankful for the opportunity that we have to be here this evening, to be able to conduct the business of Centerville City. We're grateful for the freedoms that we have to be able to do this. We're thankful for those that are willing to serve for this city and for the residents and for our first responders, and for all our other employees of the city that take care of our roads and our parks and all those things that we are so fortunate to have. We're grateful for this new year. Help us that we can be able to conduct the business in a manner that's pleasing unto Thee. We're grateful for all the sacrifice of those that have come before us, that have established this great country and state and county and city, and for all the freedoms that we do have. And we say these things in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. We all have an opportunity now to rise and repeat after me the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So before we do the swearing in will be the first thing on our agenda, but we always have an open session after we do our prayer and our pledge. And so now's the opportunity to come to the mic, or to anybody that's on Zoom, to say anything that might be on your mind. We ask that you keep your comments to 2 or 3 minutes. We do not have anything as far as public hearing. I'm just double checking on that. So there's not any subjects that where we would allow you to speak on that matter at that time. So anything that you'd like to add, now's your opportunity in this open session right now. Just if you come forward, just identify for our minutes who you are and where you're from. Anyone online? Seeing nobody that's coming forth on the open session, we will move to the business of the meeting. We'll first do the presentation. This is a swearing-in ceremony. This is going to be a swearing in of the new council member by our judge, by Judge David Miller. So we'll ask the 3 council members to come down front here, and he will swear you in front here. And we'll give you time if you want pictures as well too with family and that sort of thing, so.
Right here. All at the same time. Well, welcome, and thank you for letting me welcome to join you and participate in this. The American experience is ongoing, and it's a beautiful experience, and the opportunity to serve is remarkable. Thank you for your service. Over 20 years ago, when I began service as the judge in this facility and town and with these people, I started a practice of trying to start each time by reciting words called the Micah Mandate. They are from the Hebrew chapter 6, or chapter 6, verse 8 of the book of Micah, which is a mandate that really asks you to balance three things: to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly. And if you can balance those three things in your public service, I think you will be of great service to the people that you work with, and you'll find joy in that service as well. And I'm going to give each of you the Micah Mandate because the source of it was from Theodore Roosevelt. After he was no longer the U.S. president, he was asked to give to the servicemen in 1917 as they were departing his thoughts about their service. And he called it the Micah Mandate from Micah 6:8. And it was inscribed in a Bible that was given to each of the servicemen that they took with them. So kind of neat. I'll give that with you. But anyway, without further ado, if you will each raise your hand. Repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state, and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity. Thank you. I need a signature from each of you. And so if you want to just come around here, and yours is right there, and so you will sign.
Sign here?
Let's see, I do, yes, right there. Thank you, and that's yours,
Thank you.
right there. Thank you. Right there.
Thank you. Did you all get the pictures you wanted? Everybody good?
I'd like one of all the council together, to do everyone together. Spencer is there.
You want to wait until Gina's here?
He's not here. We'll wait next week.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
I know, I was like, well, I wasn't sure if I was supposed to say present, because I'm like, I'm not technically in, so.
I actually think we sat in the seats until we were.
Wait.
Here, let me move out of the way. Shaylin. In that picture. You can come up closer, Brett. You don't need to be all the way back there. You get a terrible resolution. You got to come in and get a portrait mode. Come on.
I'm good.
He's good. You're good, which means she's good.
This is for the living room wall, isn't it?
No, it's just for whatever I post to
Oh,
my Insta.
I figured it was living room wall stuff.
Unless you can read yours and you can't read mine.
Thank you.
Oh, you're fine.
Representing some picture there. What's it, Matt Buckland? Okay. Yeah. I got it.
Well, now this is a little more like the real council.
Yeah, I was going to say, there was too many people here, right, Ron?
That happens every other year, and that's it.
That's the most full I've seen it in a long time.
I think we should wait swearing until the end. All right, which one of you want to conduct a meeting? That's what happens, first meeting.
I will defer to the mayor.
Okay. Welcome. You're officially sworn in now. And as you see, we have left a couple visitors and staff on the back. Staff at many times will present, if they have a topic that they need to presenting on. So, all right. Should we dig into it? The first item of business is the telecommunications franchise agreement renewal. This is amendment number 1 to the Centerville Telecommunications franchise agreement. And so, Lisa, thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Do you want to talk with us about, tell us about this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Congratulations and welcome to new council member Heyman and Plummer. And congratulations, council member Meekum, for your reelection. So yes, our first item of business this year are 3 telecommunications agreements. They're each a little bit different, but the first one we have on our agenda is the MCI Metro franchise agreement, also doing business as Verizon. That may be a more familiar name to you. So with our franchise agreements, we typically enter into a standard agreement because we have to treat all companies similarly under the Telecommunications Act, and we can't really provide any barriers of entry from one company to the next. So we have to keep them very similar. And we also have a Telecommunications Act that governs quite a bit of what they do in our right-of-ways. So this first telecommunications is merely a renewal. In our original franchise agreement for MCI Metro, we allow a 1 5-year term extension as long as they notify us 90 days prior to the expiration of that agreement, which they have. They notified us on June 1st of this year, and so this is an automatic renewal, but they also notified us of a corporate formation change from a corporation to a limited liability company. So there's 2 reasons I wanted to do this as an amendment. In the past, we've been doing these automatic renewals as merely a letter where we just say, yes, you're extended. But the problem is we can't find that letter. It's not linked to necessarily the franchise agreement. So I just thought it would be a lot easier to keep track of these extensions by an amendment. So we'll have that in our record. So I'm just recommending on this one approval of amendment number 1 to the MCI Metro Access franchise agreement, extending their term automatically for 5 years and recognizing their corporate formation change.
So Lisa, we will have them ask you if there's any questions from council members on this one first. Is that okay? We'll present them one by one and then entertain questions and then vote on them before we move to the next one.
Yes, yeah, just one at a time, that'd be great.
Okay,
Thank you.
so that's the introduction. So, council members, questions for Lisa?
Yeah, Lisa Spencer, just a quick question. This one really seems like it's just a ratification because it's an amendment right that Verizon has, correct?
Yes, and again, I just want to keep track of it, so this is an automatic renewal, and we're just formalizing that, yes, as a ratification, that's a good way to put it.
Okay, and then secondly, how many telecom franchise agreements do we have? We're considering 3 here tonight. Are there others out there whose terms are not coming up?
We may have about 10, telecommunications franchise agreements.
Yes.
We also have, Rocky Mountain Power, Questar, Dominion, but maybe 10 to 12, and some of those may have expired. But usually what we're doing is when they come in for an excavation permit, our Public Works Director, Mike Carlson, is checking to make sure as part of their application for an excavation permit that they still have a current franchise agreement, which is one reason we are finding all of these that need a renewal. So thanks to Mike for that.
I guess that begs the question, Lisa, I don't want to, this may be between you and Mike to figure out and Brant, but I'm trying to think logistically in-house. Should our city attorney be tracking these agreements rather than our Public Works Director?
Yeah, yes, we really need to track our contracts. Some agreements, they may or may not, we don't know. We really get our franchise agreement through the tax commission, but, I've been wanting to do some sort of contract software program that we can plug in these expiration dates.
Okay, that's what I was getting at, because you
It's
said
on the list of,
there's
yes.
some of these that may or may not have expired. I'm thinking, well, wait a second, what has or has not expired? We should maybe put that on the
Yes.
task list. Okay,
Well, it just goes through,
That's all I've got.
it goes through an exercise as well of, we may not even be able to locate a franchise. So we're asking the
Yeah, exactly.
vendors themselves, say, hey,
franchisee.
do you show us your recent. So that was kind of this discussion of, this is the franchise agreement we have, not this particular case, the next one.
Yeah.
This is the last franchise agreement we have with you. Do you have anything newer? And they couldn't document or prove that. So that's why it's just creating this, we do need to have a better tracking system for these types of
Okay.
agreements.
And where it's a legal document, that, I mean, maybe I'm speaking out of place, but it seems like maybe it's easier for Lisa to track it with some software that we have as opposed to Mike having to
This
track
is,
that.
well, yeah, so again, that's a lot of burden on Mike to keep track of legal agreements. So we agree.
Okay.
But the question is, we do not have software necessarily other than creating a spreadsheet.
Or some kind of database,
Yeah.
yeah, spreadsheet.
So we are looking to options.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Councilman Summerhays. Further questions for Lisa on this one?
I have a few questions. Lisa, this is Gina. I know we have the same agreement in place for the corporation versus it's now transitioning to an LLC. But I'm wondering what the impact or should we ever get into a liability issue or a court case, would the judge view that differently? I don't understand the difference between LLCs and corporations, but that's a question that I have.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. There are different protections and such with limited liability companies versus corporations. But with these telecommunication franchise agreements, we require a certain amount of insurance and indemnification. So in terms of the city, contractually, I think they'll have the same obligation to us.
Okay. The other question I had is, we can't collect fees. We collect a franchise tax, 3.5%. Just looking at our financial, I may not totally understand this, and this might be more of a question for Nate, but it looks like we've collected about $50,000 this year, but the anticipated amount is $300,000. I'm just wondering if I know we don't have a choice in this, but are we collecting enough if they have impact on the streets and sidewalks?
Gina, I think the 300,000 is nat gas. I think telecom in the budget's 80, isn't it?
I might be wrong on that. I think that's what I'm trying to figure out.
I think it's 80. I'm looking at it right now.
It's 80,000?
That's what our adopted budget was for 2024.
Okay. I just noticed in the revenues on the financial documents for this month that, you know, that came with our city council packet, it said 50. I could be totally, and then it said the expected was 300,000.
We're going off Spencer's book that he has in front of him. Nate's unable to be here tonight, so.
He's on Zoom, Mayor.
Yeah, I don't
to
know. If Nate's on Zoom, so, but I don't know if he has that in front of him. Nate, anything to add there?
No, I'm trying to pull that up so I can get you accurate information. Sorry, I don't have it in front of me right now.
I don't know that it has anything to do with this franchise agreement, just, I noticed that in our municipal code, 5.08.080, highway management fees, that we can collect when they impact streets and sidewalks infrastructure. And I guess ultimately my real question is, how are we inspecting and observing these impacts? Is Public Works doing that with staff they have? We had quite a few complaints with the CenturyLink impacts this last fall. So I guess I'm just making sure that we're covering ourselves in the event that they do some damage and don't fix it.
So there were a couple questions there. One's the financial aspect, but in terms of damage, that should be, if the damage is for work that they're doing in the public right-of-way, which is what this franchise governs, then the franchise agreement addresses the repair responsibilities. But sometimes there's some other legal issues with, for instance, if they're doing work in a public utility easement. Some of these franchise agreements don't technically cover work in a public utility easement, only in the public right-of-way. So anyway, we do have some recourse for those things, and generally when we get a complaint, I will look up the specific franchise agreement and look to that term, and then we usually send them a letter if it's something in the public right-of-way or associated with work in the public right-of-way.
Okay. So you feel like we're covered as far as that type of thing?
Yes, I know we've had some problems, and I've been involved in, sort of the question of who has jurisdiction here. So again, when it was in a PUE, it was a little more problematic. The law and our franchise agreements are not clear on who governs that, but generally we do have the authority under our contractual basis to have them fix things and their repair obligation.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Gina, maybe to answer a question, maybe Nate can confirm it, but I'm just looking at the monthly financial, which would be 5 months worth of collections. $41,000 out of the $80,000 budgeted. So I think we're ahead of budget right now.
Okay. Do you see how the budget is set at 300,000 though? Does that need to be changed?
300,000 is nat gas.
Oh, okay. Oh, got you. Okay. You said that. I apologize.
No problem. But I think there must be some, Nate can speak to that maybe later in the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, you're correct. In telecommunication franchise tax, as of the end of November, we had collected just over 41,000 out of a budget at 80,000. So yeah, you're correct there.
Okay, thank you.
Any more, Councilwoman Hurst?
No, that's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, any others? If not, let's look for,
I'll make a motion that
Okay.
we approve amendment number 1 to the Centerville City Telecommunications Franchise Agreement with MCI Metro Access Transmission Service, LLC, DBA Verizon Access Transmission Services, authorizing 5-year term renewal and acknowledging corporate formation change.
I'll second that.
a motion is second, further discussion? You're gonna learn, new council members, most of the time I do a vote by, rather than just yay or nay, because that way it's always covered. Right, Lisa? So sometimes they're turned to you and you say, no, you needed to do a roll call.
Roll call vote.
Roll call vote.
So, Councilman Meekum.
Aye.
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 That motion passed unanimously, 5-0. Okay, let's go to number 2. That's the telecommunications franchise agreement with Quest doing business at CenturyLink. We want to note that Max Buckland, is that correct, is here with us from CenturyLink. You don't need to say anything unless you want to. You're always welcome to. So, Lisa, you introduce, and we'll see if Max wants to add anything. How does that sound?
That sounds great. Thank you for introducing Max Buckland. Yeah, so this is a renewal as well, but a completely new telecommunications franchise agreement because the prior one had expired. So again, typically our renewal in our term provision says if you notify us prior to expiration, we'll do a renewal, but this one is expired. So they have filed a new application form and we've renegotiated this new franchise agreement. We entered into the original agreement with Quest back in 1999. And this agreement proposes a 5-year term with 2 potential 5-year renewal terms. But those renewal terms are subject to either party terminating at least 90 days prior to the end of that term. So just as way of background, we used to have much longer terms on these franchise agreements. Some were up to 20, 25 years. Even the gas company was a really long franchise agreement. But we've been doing shorter terms because typically when we enter into the agreement, they are governed by the ordinances in place at the time they entered the agreement. And then, once we make some amendments, if they're not health and safety amendments, we have to wait till the renewal to impose those ordinance amendments on them. So we've just been doing much shorter terms, but if we haven't made any changes to our ordinances and things are good, then we can just allow the extension of that original term. So possibly this is a 15-year term agreement, but the city can also send notice 90 days prior to the first 5-year term and then, renegotiate. So I think that's all I have on this one unless, Max would like to speak to this matter as well.
Anything, Max? He's coming forth. He wants to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, members of the council. We just want to express our appreciation for the staff. Ms. Romney's been tremendous to work with, and the communication has been really good, and we appreciate that. And Mr. Hanson as well. You've been great to work with as well. So happy to answer any questions. Just wanted to say thank you and call out staff specifically for appreciation.
Appreciate that, Max. Thank you. So you got Max or staff. Any questions on this one? Council?
Lisa, yeah, I do, sorry. I understand why.
No sorries. We're
Yeah,
glad you
I
did.
understand why CenturyLink would want renewal options. I don't know that we want renewal options. Walk me through why we're giving them renewal options.
It was quite a lengthy negotiation, and they would like the longest term agreement as they can obtain, so they don't have to renegotiate these because sometimes it's a lengthy process. So we reviewed a number of the terms and, obviously one of them was the length of this franchise agreement. But I believe it was a negotiating term that I was willing to provide. Originally, I just said, no, we're only doing 5-year terms because I'd like to review our ordinances. But there's really no harm because the city can allow, if we just give them notice 90 days prior to the end of this term, we can get out. So if the city wants, it's a 5-year renewal.
Yeah, if we remember to do.
5-year term with no renewals. But if things are going fine, then the city can allow the renewal. It's not an automatic renewal like that, like the MCI one we just did, which is an automatic renewal as long as they give us notice. It doesn't give the city the same option to terminate. So this new one with Quest and CenturyLink does give us the option to get out after the first 5 years.
I have to say, you've made my job a lot harder this last few months. I just gotta
Robin,
throw that.
she's speaking to Max, not you, I think.
Yeah, not you, Lisa. I'm
Yeah.
Yes, Lisa.
I was thinking
We
the
have a
same
bone to
thing.
pick. No.
Because I think I feel the same way about what Robin's about to say.
Right. The work that's been done in our city, I watched a little kid almost get hit because there was materials left in the road on my street for over a month that nobody was using, nobody touched, and the kids ride their bikes to school and have to ride out around that. They were coming out around it, and a car came, and I was pretty sure they were gonna get hit, and I was pretty mad at Quest for a minute. We've had a ton of complaints about the work being done in our city. Sorry, but,
Well, I can give you specifics, like my own park strip is still garbage.
right?
I know everybody has access, by virtue of these franchise agreements in the PUE, you have access, and it's not my property, I understand that, but the condition in which it's left, and it's not Quest, it's your subcontractors, but it's bad. And then there's core drills on even South Main Street, there are core drills sitting open, so cyclists or anybody else, there were a lot of hazards created, so.
I would
it
say
was
a
not
lot
well
of
done.
liabilities.
Not well done at all.
I'm very sorry to hear that. I can give my contact information to Mr. Hanson. Anytime anything like that happens, please escalate it through me, and I'll escalate it to our senior director for the network, and we can get that resolved and taken care of.
Max, this is Gina, I'm online. One of the complaints also was the taller towers being installed in the PUEs that I heard from several residents. They were very frustrated with that. The answer they received was that the in-ground ones become damaged more easily, but I guess my question is, if it's bothering them so much, why don't you consider doing the ones that are level with the ground?
So, thank you, Council Member. Many of those questions come down to the economics of the build and the feasibility. There are certain thresholds that the build has to make from an economic sense, otherwise it doesn't happen. And I understand there's a frustration with that. Some of those are 3 feet tall. I understand the frustration with having a 3-foot tall box in your yard. There are things that we can do, so if you, again, escalate that through me, I can talk to the network team and we can have them come and discuss certain options with those residents for those cases. But a lot of that comes down to the financials and whether it makes financial sense to build or not.
And Councilmember Hearns, if I could offer, Mike and I have met with the team a number of times, particularly early on when we were having these issues, and we learned that from a technical standpoint, some items just can't be underground. If it's a copper termination point, it can't be underground. So there's some areas where we understand. I don't know if, Mike, you want to correct me on any of this, but there are some items that just can't be underground.
But there was some that
In
could,
terms-
because I told people to fight hard enough,
Sure.
and they
And-
fought, and they did get them
Yeah,
to come back and
So that's what we-
switch
A lot
them
of
out.
the towers to,
I mean,
at
it
least
was-
in my neighborhood, they switched them out to ground box.
So I don't know, again, I don't know the technical aspect of it, but I know there's some that will be above ground, but again, I don't know.
And that's
not my
that was
world.
the information I received.
In Spencer's neighborhood, one lady had both her gas and her power line hit the same day. I mean, it's not been a
was
good
rough.
public relations for Quest. I've had people tell me that they've changed because they were so angry about what was done and how they were treated. So just so heads up, maybe it's not a good public relations when, sorry that you stood up.
No, I appreciate you sharing this with me, and I will share it with our team. And I know there's a letter writing option to notify us of any damages, but again, please feel free to escalate those through me, and I can make that process.
You know,
faster.
Max, I respect you for being here. I'm not sorry you stood up because I'm glad you're here and I'm glad that you're able to hear that. You know, it's just there's multiple concerns that we need to handle.
Well, we can't address those concerns without communication, and that's my job, is to facilitate communication. So if there's anything I can do, please let me know.
And Mike, thank you for providing that. My communication was with the direct superintendent over everybody, and he was really nice, but nothing ever happened.
I can escalate it further from there.
Lisa, I have a question for you, circling back around to one of Spencer's earlier comments. Looking at section 3.1 of this proposed franchise agreement, I see the language there that says that if either party notifies within not less than 90 calendar days before the expiration, right? It won't auto-renew, but then there's a sentence after this. In such event, the parties will promptly begin discussions regarding a replacement franchise agreement. Is it your understanding that that language would not obligate the city to enter into a franchise agreement if the parties can't reach an agreement on a replacement franchise agreement?
Yeah, and I believe that there are some provisions in the Telecommunications Franchise Act that do require us to work with the telecommunications companies. And so again, as long as they're meeting, yes, to answer your question, we could, we have the opportunity to renegotiate, but to just say no with no good reason, we're not putting them on the same level playing field as other companies. So we don't have complete discretion in denying a renewal franchise agreement, but we do have the opportunity to renegotiate, or if there are some breaches or issues, then we would look into that, the Telecommunications Act provisions that, to see if there's some options there.
It's essentially, I anticipated that you would answer and say that it's an obligation to renegotiate in good faith.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, is your name Max?
Max, yes.
Sorry,
No
Max, is
problem.
that your understanding as well on behalf of Quest?
It is, and there are certain concerns with the Public Service Commission, so we're what's called a carrier of last resort. We have an obligation to provide services to anybody in our service territory. So with some of that, there are some obligations that can become complicated with franchise agreements. And so that's part of it, is we have an obligation to serve from the state in certain areas due to that carrier of last resort obligation.
Okay, thank you.
And also, I believe our ordinances have a provision that allow them now, and I'd have to review it if it's actually expired, but it does allow some holdover functioning for the company during this negotiation period.
Mike, you had stepped up. Did you have something on this? Yeah. So we can get the council full disclosure?
Well, just maybe do a little clarification if it's okay. So yeah, in the beginning, we did have a little bit of a rough time getting going. We did meet with Neil Fugel, who is their contractor. And I think we ironed everything out pretty well. As Brant said, they said there was some boxes that did have to be above the ground because of the copper and then going to the fiber and that. But I just, like to let you know that I think Neil Fugel has done a really good job in staying on top of some things. If we're notified of it, we send it to Bree, is the one that we deal with Neil Fugel. They've been very good about taking care of things. And so as long as they're in the loop, they've been quite anxious to take care of us, keep us, going on. I do have one last area. I imagine tomorrow I'll release that area. But, they've come back in, put the flush grade boxes in our park strip that we have the right for. To their comment, I have...
My box isn't flush.
It isn't?
No, it's still 4 or 5 inches high.
You better send me, okay, but it is a flush mount box.
It is a flush mount box. It isn't quite
Christian was gonna
flush.
come back and take care of you, right?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
been that way
So
for
if that
about
doesn't
5
happen, let
months.
us know.
Yeah.
Now, Mark, it's kind of the way that we're working this, is I approve them, Mark gets a chance to review them, and Mark is the one that's been out cleaning up things. There are some street things that they've got to take care of, but I wouldn't think that they would be able to take care of it now. I think we need to wait till they can get in, during the summer months and straighten up the roads and that. But, they've done a really good job. Bree has stayed right on top of, whatever complaints I've had. We had one that the other day, when they bore, they use a solution and it dumped on his driveway. He was real upset. Well, as soon as we notified them, they went out and actually washed the driveway off, made contact with the homeowner, made the homeowner feel good about it. So I think they're doing a good job. In the beginning, it was rough because they come in with so many, and I don't think they realized our rules and regulations of what we go through. And so that was an eye-opener for Neil Fugel as well. And, I realize that they're working for CenturyLink, but when we've had problems, they've actually went back to CenturyLink and asked them, what can we do here to help that? And so I feel pretty good about our relationship with them right now. Matter of fact, it's probably one of the better ones I have as far as excavation permits to work with.
So to Gina's question earlier, you feel like we're not using city funds to repair any items that were caused by
Not at this
Neil's
point,
Fuel?
no.
Okay.
As long as they come back and take care of the road construction, then I would be comfortable saying we're good.
Yeah, that would have been my,
You know,
I'm
the
glad that
thing
Gina
is,
brought that up, because that's a primary concern of mine.
right, and the big thing is I have to rely on Mark, and that's the staff time that I have on any excavation permit, you know, because he does follow through very, very well on making sure that everything's done right. So, yeah, it'd be nice to have one person that could take care of all that stuff, but it's, you know, and my feeling is once I get the excavation permits going well, we get all the franchise agreements wrote, I'm gonna probably pass that off to Mark to keep control of it, so. But that's a little bit down the road before we get to that point, but, you know, as far as CenturyLink, I think they've stepped up, they've took care of what problems we have. I don't know of any that we have outstanding other than they gotta go back and raise up one guy where they park their boring machine on top of their lawn, but they says, yeah, as soon as spring comes, we'll come back and get it. So that's kind of where we're at on a few issues. We won't close their permit out until that's taken care of, basically, and Mark's been keeping track of all those things, so. If we're aware of it, we usually send it to Neil Fugel, who responds almost immediately and takes care of most of the things that we have, so. You know, it's kind of like what you was saying about the reels. I didn't realize that was them, but as soon as I got with them, they got them moved out of the way. So she's very responsive in taking care of what she's got going on. So any questions for me? Okay, I probably said more than I should have.
Thanks for coming up, Mike. All right, we have 3 people that we were asking questions to. Any more?
None for me.
Okay, do we have a motion on this matter?
I still don't like the renewal periods. Lisa, how hard, is that something you just feel like we need to give?
If you don't like the renewal periods, you can send a notice of termination tomorrow.
Well, it's only 90 days prior to the expiration, so you have a window, not an ongoing right.
Oh, it should say at least 90 days prior. Let me pull that up again.
It says not less than 90 calendar days. I read that as we could,
Not less, so you
Not
could
less
anytime up until, okay,
I
that's
read
good
that
then.
as we could do it tomorrow.
Okay,
Right.
fine. Well, I'll make a motion then. I'll make a motion that we approve telecommunications franchise agreement with Quest DBA CenturyLink for the non-exclusive right to operate and maintain a telecommunications system within the city rights of way in accordance with the city's telecommunication rights of way ordinance.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. Need further discussion on this one? Discussed pretty well. Let's start with Councilman Summerhays going to the right.
Aye.
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 That motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Thanks for all 3 of you for participating. Lisa, let's go to item number 3 of the telecommunications franchise agreement, Level 3 Communications LLC.
Okay, thank you. Again, this is a new franchise agreement because the prior agreement had expired with Level 3 Communications. We entered into a telecommunications franchise agreement with them in 1999 and again in 2008. And they're seeking a renewal agreement. And the terms of this agreement are pretty much the exact same provisions as the Quest and CenturyLink agreement that you just approved. So staff is recommending approval of this new franchise agreement with Level 3 Communications.
Not having a red line, Lisa, what were the differences between this and the Quest agreement?
The name of the company
Okay,
and
good.
the contact.
So nothing?
That answers our question.
Well, you said it's
Technically.
essentially the same, so I wanted to make sure if I had missed anything.
Yeah, that's it, just the name and the contact information. And if you got to that page, you'll see that the contact information is still blank. Given the holidays, they hadn't completed all of their review, but I said I'd get it on this agenda just so that once they get me that information, we can plug that in. But
Do you need us to, in our motion, give you some leeway for minor, essential edits.
Yes, that would be helpful. Thank you.
I imagine not as many questions because it's a new agreement, right? So we don't have any history that we're dealing with here.
When did the prior agreement expire?
I know, I was trying to remember that, because I know on the 2008, they probably had a renewal, so we were doing the 5 years. So maybe the last renewal was to 2018, but I'm not positive about that.
So this was initiated by L3 then, not by us?
To Gina and Spencer's earlier comments, was there any work that was done by Level 3 Communications in the city between 2018 and now, where they've, done damage to any of our roads, but they haven't been contractually obligated to pay for that?
They would be, I don't know if they've done any work, but they would have to obtain an excavation permit. The franchise agreement requires, even if you're working in our rights of way, then you have to get an excavation permit. And that's where they would also be obligated to fix the road. So I can't speak to whether or not they've done any work, but they would not have done any work where they didn't repair it, because they would be
Grant,
under.
have they done any work?
Do we know if any excavation permits pulled by L3 in the last 4 or 5 years?
Which one's that?
L3?
Level 3?
Level 3 Communications LLC. Okay. Okay.
Some of these just have very long, they go through the city, but they don't all have end users. So not all of them have been making lots of improvements in the right of way. I do think something's going on with the industry though, because we are having a lot of applications and work in the right of way.
In many cities. And so, before the meeting, I was having a good conversation with Max, and hundreds of millions of dollars are going to states to help with just, again, expanding broadband access to community. Hundreds of millions of dollars. I think he said 700 million went to Montana and 800 million went to Colorado. CenturyLink this is not part of that. Their program that they're putting in right now is not part of that funding. And that's what I asked them before the meeting. So this is just their investment to try and expand their own take rate, so to say, in a service area they already provide. So, anyway.
I think L3 is on Main Street. I think it runs all the way through town. It used to be the defense line from Hillfield, if I'm not mistaken. Because there's a big bundle of conduits and everybody has spots in the conduit. So they probably just keep it up so in case they have to go do any work, I would think. So.
Yeah, we see, just like now, CenturyLink might be dormant or just doing small projects in the city. This is a pretty big, and most have been that way, pretty quiet. And so we don't necessarily have this trigger to look at the franchise agreement because, well, we haven't had the need.
The biggest complaint I have with like CenturyLink coming in or any big organization is, I thought it was one project. And then next thing I know, they're almost to Fourth North, and it's like, it'd be nice to know that stuff. So I tried to back off and say, well, you can only do so much. And I could hold them to that because of the franchise agreement wasn't signed.
They don't get ahead of your staff inspections.
Yeah, and so, that's the hard thing for me is, only approving the permits that we have enough staff to keep up on top of it. And that's kind of where, CenturyLink says, yeah, we're just going to here for now, but in the spring, we want to go.
Yeah, it felt like an
basically the rest
all-out
of the way through
blitz.
town.
It was kind of crazy.
Yeah, it was,
for
it
multiple
was. It
weeks.
took a lot of staff time.
So Mike and his team did a pretty good job with those early meetings saying, okay, slow it down just a little bit. Not even necessarily for staff, but just so we can adjust to what they're doing. Anyway, and they did, and they were great. Again, they were, I think,
Well-
accommodating and
And prior experience was utopia. They come into town and they were everywhere. And we had to end up hiring an inspector to do it all. But, it's, making sure that things are being taken care of, and that transpires. So as long as I can keep them, spaced out, then, it's easier for us to just take care of it. But if they came in and said, we're gonna do all of town, here's the whole permit, then we'd have to probably look to hire an inspector. So, but anyway, that's a little bit off what the L3 conversation was about, yeah.
Mike, did they have to have an excavation permit when they come in? Like, you said, kind of came in and started working, and maybe you needed them to slow down a little bit. Based on what Lisa said, that something's going on, I worry that suddenly we've got a lot of companies in here doing work and our staff can't keep up.
Well, my concern is, I got several concerns, and there are some in the future we're gonna have to address. But, number one, for me, the concern I have is, keeping control of it. But number two is, there's so many conduits in the ground anymore, we can't even hardly dig in a park strip without having Twin D come in and back it out for us. And so I was talking to Comcast one day, they wanted to dig up, Linda Loma, our brand new road. The asphalt wasn't even hot. They said the line was bad and they wanted to run a whole new line. And, if they want to bore underneath the street, they got to make window cuts to check the utilities. And I just said, no, you're not digging here. And so I actually talked with them. I said, look, why don't you dig down on each side of the road and see if you can pull it through there without digging up our road. So I think there's going to come a point in time when city council is going to have to address, if you want a new line, then you need to pull your old line out. Because we get digging around and there's so many lines, nobody knows if they're alive or not.
Well, that, and do we require as-bills? And how good would an as-built be?
Well, by Blue Stakes, they have to come and mark it, but they come and mark a 3-foot spot, and there could be 10 different lines, not 10, but there could be 4 or 5 different lines in there, and I don't know whether it's CenturyLink or if it's Utopia or, whose exactly. That's the problem. They all use blue or the orange conduit, so you're just kind of going, well, all right, whatever, and you have to be careful.
Should we be creating an ordinance that requires they pull out their existing infrastructure before they place new?
I thought I saw in the franchise agreement that they are obligated to do that. Is that right, Lisa? I thought I read that.
We can require them to.
Yes, yeah.
That's what I thought.
Then maybe we could do that, but I didn't get the impression we were actually requiring them to do that.
Well, we're not currently. We have the right under the franchise agreement, but we haven't been obligating people to do so.
Correct.
So that's kind of what Mike's saying is, if we want to go in that direction, we can change that policy, enforcement of the franchise agreement.
And that's the thing I understand direct bury, you put it in, and if it goes bad, you put another one in. But if I put a conduit in something, it's so I can pull a new line back in. And so that's what, like I was telling Comcast, I says, you need to try to pull it or something. And they said, okay, but then all of a sudden, miraculously, they come up with a different way to run it that they don't have to dig up the road. And I'm going, wow, that's cool. So far, I've stopped 2 of them, but it's, it's a fight all the way through. But, so, anyhow.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Mike. All right, I think we've hit the questions. Lisa, you have anything more on this one?
No, staff just recommends approval of this telecommunications franchise agreement with Level 3 Communications as well.
Have a motion?
I move that we approve the telecommunications franchise agreement with Level 3 Communications LLC for the non-exclusive right to operate and maintain a telecommunications system within the city rights-of-way in accordance with the city's telecommunication rights-of-way ordinance, with granting to the city attorney the discretion to make non-substantive revisions to the agreement in connection with finalizing the agreement with Level 3.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Let's start.
I just have one quick question for Lisa. It's not to do with this one, but you mentioned these are new agreements because of expiration dates. When we talked about the Verizon agreement, didn't that one expire in October? Should that have been a new agreement too?
It expired, I think, November 1st, but they did give us notice, and then just with timing, we didn't get it on the agenda, so.
Okay.
It's just a back date at that point, right?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Let's vote, starting with Councilwoman Hayman, going to my right.
Aye.
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 That motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Let's go to the annual meeting schedule for 2024 in front of you in your packet information. you had the dates of city council meetings. Is there any dates there that anyone noticed that is a conflict that staff has brought to us that we need to change before I call for a motion to approve?
When you say conflict, sorry, this is my first rodeo. If I am not going to be able to make a date,
No.
is that a conflict?
Well, I'll give you an example of one. For instance, we have on here November 5th, and that's an election day. A lot of times we move that to
Holidays or
a next day,
those types of conflicts.
okay? It's not municipal elections, but it is federal and state elections this year. That's something like we talked about, and do we want to meet on the election night or not?
Or July 2nd, are we going to meet
Okay, that
on
makes sense.
Tuesday, 2 days prior to July 4th?
And from our position, we
My
would,
feeling is you just place them there, and then if we need to make adjustments, we can make adjustments.
when you have, the November 5th is a good one to potentially, if you want to move it to November 6th, and then we can cancel it if we don't want to hold a meeting at that time, we're happy to do that, but, yeah, we're not going to, like, for example, April 2nd.
We don't need to
spring-
know your personal vacation
Yeah.
schedule. in
Okay, good.
advance.
April 2nd is spring break week, but again, we'll hold the meeting
Right.
unless, we don't have any agenda items where there's a request to.
I'm talking it conflicts with community things
Caucus meeting.
or other governmental meetings or evenings. So is that one that we want to look to change, the November 5th to November 6th
I would suggest we do
Yes.
that.
on the schedule? Okay. Is there any others that anybody saw? Okay, then I would look for a motion to approve Resolution 2024-01. This is our first one, -01.
So moved.
Second?
Motion is second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Did I hear an aye from you, Gina?
Yes, you did.
Okay. So I won't ask for opposed then. So that motion passes unanimously. Okay, with that one change. Well, we noted that in the motion. Okay, summary action. We don't see any thing on summary action tonight. Unless Kevin or Mike, you guys want to, no, you can't make up one. We got to post it in advance. So, let's go to the minutes. We have the approval of the December 5th work session minutes and the December 5th city council minutes. Did anyone note any changes on any of those minutes that they want to enter into the record? If not, a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passed unanimously. Appointments, we don't have any tonight, but in my mayor's report, I'll talk more about those with you. Financial report, this is was in your packet for reminder to existing council members and for new council members, what we do with our financial report. We determined a while back that we have Nate Plaisir, who's our finance director, go over it in detail every quarter. And it's presented every month, but he goes over it in detail every quarter. You'll notice, I see Councilwoman Heyman looking through, you'll notice that Nate's very good at making points on particular things. So we do open it up for any questions you might have for him, but he's presenting on the quarters, and we're on a fiscal year of June 30th, so that means he will report on September, December, March, and then we have a really thorough one, obviously, on the year-end one. So this is not one of the quarterly reporting periods, but it is there for, and he is online for any questions that you may have come across in your packet to ask him about.
Nate, maybe you can already answer a question that Councilmember Hurst brought up. When do we typically get the majority of our franchise tax for nat gas?
Yeah, so we get a check every month for those, but the majority of it comes during the winter months because that's when people are running their furnaces and using the natural gas the most. So it's, during the summer or the warmer months, it's kind of a lower number, and then we see that typically jump up during the winter months.
Kind of a bell-shaped curve to that.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, we're gonna be a little lull this year if we don't get some
It
winter.
doesn't get cold. Well, it's been cold, but
I don't know, it's been kind of golf weather this last week or so, so.
We're hoping that's ending, for the moisture.
Right.
Although it's nice, isn't it, the nice weather. Further questions for Nate on the financials? Nate, anything that you want to point out in particular that you haven't already highlighted for us?
No, I don't think we had anything out of the norm for November, so I think I'm good.
Okay. Thank you. As always, thanks for putting that together. He always comes prepared, even on those months that he's not presenting the quarterly statements. Okay, council report. This could be a fun one.
it's always a fun one for me.
Councilmember Summerhays, we appreciate all he's doing. We're excited for another report.
So, Shaylin and Brian, unless you've been listening in to recordings of council's reports in the last few months, I'll just give you a high-level summary. For some time, we've known that the rec district is facing financial challenges in terms of the gap between operating revenues and operating expenditures. There's always going to be a gap between those two. It's a subsidized district. It's always been set up that way. We've always known it, but the gap has been ever widening. Kind of alligator jaws would be the way to describe it. So we've had some spirited discussions amongst board members. There was a truth in taxation hearing set, well, actually a levy amount set back in May. It was a 5-3 vote. I had voted against it because it was a 140% increase. Part of the problem stemmed from the fact that the rec district has never had an increase to their levy. There's two components of your property tax bill. Brian, you probably know this well from your service in the county, but part of the bill is for the bond for the infrastructure of the facility, and then there's a subsidy levy for the operation. So we're really just focused on the operational. The bond is consistent regardless. That portion has never had any increase, which doesn't make practical sense. If you have to pay more in supplies and overhead, you should be keeping up with that. But previous boards never had the will to do that. So now we have a board that has a little bit of will to say, look, there has to be a stop to not increasing that levy increase. But the board at the time in May said it's 140%. That wasn't logical to me. COLA increases over the same period of time were 62, 63%, not including the missed increases during those years. So in my mind, it was closer to a logical number would be like 75% increase. So truth and taxation hearing happens, and it was attended by 200 plus individuals. Fox News was there, and 2 board members that had voted for the increase swapped and voted against the increase, which put us to the next board meeting to decide, well, what is our tax levy going to be? So there was a long meeting. I was texting Brant, I think, during the meeting. I think we finally were 5 hours into it before we finally settled on what the number was. I tried to do my best Daniel Webster and throw in a compromise, and the compromise was to go to 77.5. There was still board members that wanted to go to 100, 125, and I'm glad that the composition of the board just wasn't going to have that. So the approved motion was a 77.5% increase with also some budgetary cuts. What we found out during the process, and kudos to Councilmember Bradshaw from Bountiful, she actually dove in and looking at the benefit package at the rec center that's quite aligned with even Bountiful City's benefit package. So they started to have some discussions, and that may be a continued discussion as to aligning those packages. So, long story short, there was a budget that was passed, a tax levy that was passed. Those funds won't come in until December of next year, obviously. But right now, it kind of gets us on a trajectory that levels us out. It doesn't increase some of our cash reserves. And I think it'll just be interesting as we head into the future. We will need some capital to upgrade the facility. And the intent was always to take care of those things as part of a bond. Because the board chose to be so aggressive in their original tax proposal, I think they may have shot themselves in the foot as it relates to a bond. I'm personally in favor of the bond. I wanted it to succeed, but I don't know if it will now because I think they've lost the public's trust as to how to manage that. So we'll see what the next 2 years hold. If that doesn't happen, there will have to be some new analysis as to, well, instead of bonding for some of those things, do you do a smaller bond amount for upgraded lockers? You know, locker rooms are falling into disrepair. They're 15 plus years old, and some of the functional layout is obsolete at this point. So there's some things that still need to be figured out. But for right now, seeing we're on life support is an overstatement. Now we're just we're out of ICU. We're now in a normal hospital bed. Maybe we can get home at some point, but there's still some operational challenges, and at least we've set ourselves up to hopefully get on a good path. But that's some of the goings on as it relates to operations from a financial perspective. Operations from actual programming, there was a vote later on about 11:30 at night where the board suspended all figure skating activities at the rec center for a 60-day period. We had a number of groups, coaches, skaters, parents, clubs, etc., that felt like daily complaints, and not just complaints, it was accusations of harassment, discrimination, lawsuit threats. And so essentially we said, hey, we have to put a pause on this and have our legal counsel investigate all of these and give everybody their own due process. But the only way to really do that is to put this on pause. And so it's still paused. There were some people that were upset about it. And we've said it was a really tough decision. I mean, ultimately, there's a lot of great youth that were affected because you had some adults that we're still trying to find out. Are they legitimate claims of harassment, discrimination, or is this skate trauma, one might say? That the jury is still out on that, and we're trying to do our very best to be diligent in that investigation, hiring some outside independent help to determine that. So lots of stuff going on at the rec center right now. We have our meeting next Monday night at 5:30 when the national championship football game is going on. So
Is that a
maybe-
conflict of interest?
It's not a conflict of interest, it's a conflict, but yeah. And then Trails Committee continues to meet. They're excited about potential general plan, and even though there's not really an avenue for which to create the Trails Master Plan yet, they're collecting ideas. They're excited for maybe some programming into the new year. So Bryce was prompting me maybe on something.
They are doing a community survey that I'm putting together that will go out.
Okay.
I don't want to go there. You can hear me.
The record can't hear.
For the record, yeah, the public can't hear you for the record, Bryce, sorry.
Dance your way up, buddy.
We should just get a staff mic.
They are doing a community survey. I met with them last week. We came up with a slew of questions. Still putting them together. The release date is a couple weeks.
Will we be doing that through the Qualtrics?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be a good trial run again for me for the upcoming general plan. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it'll be good. They got some good questions on there, and I think it's going to be a good stepping stone to putting together their master plan. So,
Who receives that Qualtrics survey?
what do you mean oversees it?
No, who gets a copy of it, right?
Like
Like-
anybody? Like it'll just go out to the
It'll
general
go out on
public?
social media platforms and you hope that people respond.
Okay, that was my question.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry, I didn't answer, I did not ask that in a very
I
articulate way.
facilitate it, create it, and then I send it out via email and text and social media. It's a lot of different channels.
So anyone
QR codes.
anyone who has signed up to the city to receive an email from the city will get it. Anyone who is on Facebook or Instagram will see it through
So long
our
as they're
Centerville
on the
Facebook.
Centerville city page.
Correct. And then you as council men and women can share it out to other pages from there if you'd like. So
Speaking of, when do we get our city Facebook?
I'm working on
profiles?
those this week
Okay.
too. So
So we do it, promote it in the correct avenue.
thank you.
Okay.
Yes. Lisa would be proud. Appreciate
Okay,
that.
Thank you. She may be still on, but yeah. Okay. That's all I've got, Mayor. I think.
That was fun.
Any questions for me, Brian, Shaylin particularly?
Why only figure skating? Did they do it
Because
with regard
those were
to
the-
hockey
those-
or open
Because those were the groups where the claims of harassment, discrimination, threats of lawsuit were happening. So
I see.
we isolated it. And so what we did with the figure skate time is opened it to the open session, which worked out well during the holidays. We'll see if we made up any revenue loss that we could have had for some of that. But yeah, it was specifically isolated because that's where all the complaints and threats and lawsuits, the potential litigation were coming up. It was not, it's not easy, it's not simple, for sure.
Thank you. That's been a task. I know you net about, not only 5 hours, but about 5 or 6 times in December, didn't you, when you're supposed to be once a month?
Yeah, it was quite a few times.
So-
Privately with Tiff as well.
I don't want to boost his ego too much, but he's done a fabulous job on this. And 2 years ago, 2 weeks from now, the two of you are going to have a chance, I'll be calling you in the next week, to be probably on a board and maybe a liaison to one of our committees within the city. Each council members and the mayor serve on various boards. In this case, 2 years ago, and I was debating on this one. I was going to take I was going to appoint Councilman Summerhays to the Waste Management District, the dump, and take myself off, but I thought, he's into recreation, he'll
He
understand.
loves this.
He's
This
into
will be great. It'll be
finance.
easy.
I had an inkling of what was coming, but not nearly what has come about.
He's done a fabulous
And he
job,
has done-
fabulous.
done a really-
Because
really
before he
fabulous
took it
job.
over, we had no idea there was a problem.
Yeah.
We were, in fact, we were kind of led the other direction, so we were very shocked when he first came back and told us there were problems. We thought he was making it known.
So but it's a testament, as I call you up, so answer your phone if you see a call from the mayor, okay?
Will do. And I would say, Robin serves on committees and Gina does too. I welcome feedback from other council members. I represent the city in that post, so if there's one of you that has specific input or ideas, let me know.
And we hope you will not have a task as difficult as Councilman Summerhays has, but what we do go through every city council meeting, and we have a report from, as you've just seen from Councilman Summerhays, and then I also do open it up, because since you're only reporting, once every 5 weeks, right? Or once every 5 council meetings too, if there's any emergency pressing things in any of your other committees that we need to know about. So I would look at Councilman Meekum and say anything that we need to know about yours. Are we all good with you right now as well?
Yep.
Okay. So you'll have that opportunity as well. Okay. So, now thank you, Councilman Sunrise. We're to the mayor report. First off, I've been in contact with Brown, our city manager. I know that he has pulled you two in, and you've been finding out things going on in the city. Have you had an opportunity, and do you know who all our staff is that's out here in the audience, or do I need to have them come up and introduce themselves at all?
I've enjoyed the opportunity. I appreciate all of the staff's time. I think that Bryce put together a great, and Brant also did great, kind of giving us the orientation of the city operations.
It was like new council member boot camp. I loved it. I loved it.
So, they're all employees except for this guy. We let him come, but he's a subcontract. But you've met Kevin Campbell as well too, our city engineer.
Absolutely.
And usually Nate would be here, but he has a sick child, but you've heard him online as well too. And so, and Bruce Cox, you probably have met as well too, right?
Yes, Bruce.
Have I missed anybody, Brant, that as far as our department heads? So, yes, I wanted to make sure you knew there. Okay, let's go to, like I just said, be looking to, all of you actually be looking to hear from me, because 2 weeks from tonight, I'm going to get it to Jennifer. We're going to come to you with the proposed appointments, and as a council, we're going to ratify those appointments to the various committees and boards. One thing I didn't mention last meeting, I did go to a ribbon cutting ceremony that the chamber did for a new business in our town that I was invited to, Stretch Zone. They're down there by Fuji Sushi, so they're in business, and they had a ribbon cutting that the chamber came to, and I was invited to, and that was a nice day. LPC is coming up. LPC is, let's call it, through the Utah League of City and Towns. It's a legislative policy committee. There's 3 of us that are voting members from the city. Obviously, we get quite engaged this time of year. They will be having meetings every Monday at noon at the Capitol for those 3 voting members, and I usually go, since I'm downtown, my office in person, and they meet from about noon to 2, discuss bills that the League of City and Towns is bringing forth that impact, obviously, cities. And we will come back, not just regularly at a council meeting, but we may come back through email or possibly a special meeting of where we need you to potentially reach out to our representatives to vote on something that is either good for our cities or bad for our cities. In the meantime, like I say, we're voting. In the LPC, we're making a vote of, hey, do we support or not support this bill type of thing, and how to fix the city. We're not getting into other bills, but we will come and reach out to you. You have a chance on Thursday evening. We should have, I just found out in December that the Councilman, Representative Ward actually has a precinct in our city. I did not know that. And Representative Cutler has a precinct in Bountiful. With the rezoning, they both said they kind of messed it up. But, and so we are having Representative Ward come as well too. Representative Cutler joked that he has like 4 houses, but his precinct's like 50 houses. So we'll have Representative Ward there, and Representative Cutler, and Senator Weiler, and possibly President Adams. All 4 of those represent our city, but he may have a commitment with Kaysville as well too. But I've been in contact with them, and that will start. We got that scheduled at 6, right?
Thursday at 6.
On
We'll start at
Thursday?
6, and then they're going to join at 6:30.
Yes, because we're going to discuss beforehand, just trying to streamline it of what we want to, what you particularly want to bring up with them that affect our city, okay?
And that's this Thursday, right?
Yes, 2 nights from now.
So we're at 6, but they're coming at 6:30.
We'll have an opportunity to just have the conversation first.
Strategize internally. I like that. That's a good idea.
That's just here, right?
That's here, yeah. They're good about showing up, and like I say, I'm in contact with them a lot, both from a CPA standpoint and a city standpoint, and so it'll be a great night for that. But that's a little bit about just what's happening over the next 2.5 months as the session's in. Other things, we had a nice letters to Santa. I think the youth council, how many did they end up doing, Bryce? Quite a few. There you go. So anyway, and then the next thing is on the committees that I'm on, South Davis Metro Fire District. Brown, aren't you the admin board chair this year?
It's not official yet, so there's still an opportunity for me not to be asked. More likely, yes.
I'm hoping they make him the admin board chair because I'm chair.
Oh, you're officially chair? Then they'll make me the chair.
Last year we kind of went off that schedule, but we talked about it. I guess you guys vote, but it's kind of nice. What basically happens there is the admin board at the fire district is made up of the 5 city managers, and they review a lot of things and then come. In this particular case, with this board, it is all 5 mayors and a county commissioner that are on the fire board. Just wanted to bring that up. The other, you'll learn what other committees we're on in a couple of weeks, all of us, so when you want to reach out. And then I think that's everything, unless there's something that...
When is our 4th of July date scheduling? Just trying to help you out, Mayor. I know it continues to say on a work session, but we're going to get ourselves behind the 8 ball, and I don't want that to happen.
I'm going to call each one of you individually. Okay. And it will be by the end of the week, okay? I've actually reached out and I've talked with Brad about it. I've actually talked to Don Christensen as well too. So, to get your feel on that one rather than to take more time tonight. And anything else? Any other questions? Okay, I think that's my report for tonight. Brant, did I miss anything that you're going to cover for me?
Yes, I'll cover a few.
So it's city manager report now.
All right, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Regarding LPC, even though we just, FYI, we do have 3 voting members, but you are still welcome to watch it remotely.
Yes.
You can sign up and register and watch it. Again, I think it's great if you take the time to hear kind of what we're listening to and experience some of the frustration that we feel when we attend these LPCs. But no, I think it's great. If you have an opportunity, we'll make sure you have the link. The Friday Facts, that's one thing I have to tell you too. Signing up for Friday Facts from Utah League of Cities and Towns would be a great resource. You get information directly from the league, and they'll tell you when there's trainings, LPC trainings, things like that.
Will you do me a favor and send me an email or text
Yep.
just so I remember?
Of course I will. Yeah, I'm giving you a heads up now, but I'll follow up with an email.
And those
How to
are
sign up.
Those are Mondays at noon. Other than the 2 holidays, then it's on the Tuesdays at noon.
Correct.
And then in the off season when the legislature's out, we do like about once a month starting in August, usually. Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Unless they call a special meeting.
Mayor discussed the meeting with the legislators on the 4th. Also, this is going to be a busy month, and apologize, but we just have a number of items we want to get through, and we're still, like 4th of July, there's still so many items we want to get through. But we would like to schedule the off Tuesday on January 23rd, a branding effort meeting. So it'll be another special work meeting. The intent of that meeting is to really try and finalize this branding effort, pretty close to it. We thought it'd be great to actually again, create a separate meeting so you can get into that space and not be consumed with other items we might be discussing about that night. So we're close to finalizing that.
What time would that be?
It would, 5:30. 6 is what we put it on the calendar for.
That's on the off week on Tuesday, the 23rd.
Correct. So you'll have 4 meetings this month. Apologize, but since 2 incoming council members didn't have to campaign, this is just us breaking it in.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
But yeah, there's a lot of items we want to get through as staff, and we probably could schedule a whole bunch more meetings just to try and get caught up, but we'll space it out. Budget preparation is underway, so this month will be an opportunity for department heads to put together their budgets, submit it to Nate and myself by the end of the month. February, we go over those budgets, so March we'll schedule budget retreats with all of you. Again, 2 days, maybe 3 days of just budget discussion so we can get through it. Community Development Director recruitment is still underway. We're still working on that. We'll be opening it back up again this week, so we're still without Community Development Director, but Whitney will essentially act as the interim and the point of contact until we essentially hire the new director.
So role-playing, like permitting seems pretty straightforward, but if there's something substantive that comes up, a rezone, a text amendment, or anything else like that, is Lisa going to be heading that up?
Lisa and I are both,
Okay.
will be assisting in whatever capacities that we need
Okay.
to. Lisa will take on some of those type of rezones, and I'll
Is there anything?
handle some of the challenging conversations or complicated conversations with potentially developers and things like that.
Do we have any on the horizon that we're aware of that may come up?
Potentially.
You don't have to get specific, just a yes, no?
Potentially. I mean, I
Okay.
think there is, but I think patience needs to be extended at this time, and
For sure.
I think developers will mostly understand and appreciate if we just continue to have the communication, have the conversations, they'll be understanding of it, which we already kind of have. At least I've spoken to developers that have potential projects, and their understanding of the potential wait time,
I have as well.
so.
Yeah.
LPC, Bryce has some training for you this week. He'll send you out via email. This is through the local GovU, right? So that training needs to be completed, and there'll be other trainings that both Jennifer and Lisa will conduct, land use as well as Open Public Meetings Act, right? Their presentations are great, exciting.
Kahoot?
Especially mine.
Kahoot again this year, Jennifer?
If you liked it, yeah, we could definitely do that.
I won't play this time. Somebody else has it. Then we have Youth Council. Our Youth Council Day on the Hill is January 22nd. We do this instead of Day at the Hill, which I think is January 15th this year. Anyway.
I just looked at that last night.
The youth council from across the state come to Salt Lake City at one time, and they have these. It's actually pretty well organized by Utah League of Cities and Towns. But Bryce started this a couple years ago, where we actually go with our group, and we have an opportunity to get this more intimate type of experience, where Representative Paul Cutler and them will come and escort them and show them. So it's a little bit. I think it's a little bit better than what we've experienced with 500,000 kids here all at once. So that'll be January 22nd. Ski school starts this week. We had 50 sign up for ski school. And
How many did we have last year?
yeah,
65, we're only going one bus this year because of costs.
the bus was the most expensive part, so our cost went up this year because of
I knew the cost went
transportation.
up. I wondered how we do.
Yeah, did we
numbers we
cap
can have.
it at 50?
Yeah, we're capped at 50 because we have to leave space on the bus for volunteers.
Yeah.
And Haley, I have to drive up separate this week, so
What nights are you doing that?
Fridays.
Because there's not room on the bus for you?
Yes. It's fine. Maybe somebody will drop out.
Is it still at Brighton?
Yeah. So yeah, costs were a big factor. It is kind of sad that we.
But it did fill up even with the higher costs, so.
It did, and our numbers are pretty half and half residents, half non-residents.
Oh.
My
We're going to
kids had-
so I want to have conversations about how we're doing this. I think it's great that we're providing this, but I think there's an opportunity to really create an opportunity for more residents to come, and if non-residents want to participate, they might have to pay a much larger amount to help subsidize that cost. But this is really a program for our residents, but at the same time, you kind of need that break point, and as council, we might have a conversation with you saying, is there a way to
Well, could we
subsidize this a little bit for our residents out of our budget, so our residents can participate
And
if
could we
have some
open it
challenging
up like for
budgetary
2 weeks to our residents before it opens up to
We
non-residents?
did this year, didn't we?
It's not about, we prioritize our residents over, there is a priority, but again.
Sign-up
that's-
priority helps. I think sign-up and cost priorities,
I mean, it is more.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're
So we
paying
would,
more.
we want to have this conversation with you for next year, just to see what we're willing to do, the cost breaks potentially. Do we want to subsidize more of our residents going so we can reduce the cost? Because you know how I feel about rec programs, and I love them being more accessible to everybody when it's a rec program, and the ski school is too much that not all of our residents can benefit from a program we offer because of the cost, it's cost prohibitive. So I'd like to see what options we have, and we've talked about scholarships, and Councilor McKeown has talked about scholarship opportunities in the past, and is that something we subsidize as a city, saying we're gonna offer 2 or 3 that anyway, we can discuss those options.
It's just a very sensitive topic because it's a high-priced
Yeah.
overhead. You know, baseball, there's not an issue. I mean, we can easily cover costs based upon the amount of volume of kids, but when we have a very specific amount, 50 people, it's tough to
Break even.
well, you can break even, but it's just tough to say, no, we can have a little extra, take kids. It's hard to scholarship kids in the ski school program unless you really overcharge.
Certain people and undercharge others. So we'll have that as an agenda item in the future.
Do we have one last question, this 50 cap, do we have a sense as to how many more people would be on like a wait list? Do we have a wait list? Do we have a sense as to, do we have twice that many
There's
looking?
nobody on the wait list right now. There's one person on the
Okay.
wait list.
So it's not
So
50
it's not
more
yet.
on the wait list, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so last year we had to add another, okay.
Is that because of early season
We
snowfall?
should probably make this just an agenda item, go into more detail.
We could talk
We're
about
gonna-
the history of
Fair.
ski school. But anyway.
But we'll talk about that going forward. And then the last item I have is baseball signups January 8th.
Brant, you talked about community development director. Are we also, we're 2 staff short on public works and 2 officers still short on police?
So good question. We've made an offer. Can I share that? So we've made an offer to a candidate and he has accepted. So, I mean, Chief can come up and talk about timetable on that, but it's, they'll be starting here soon, but they're gonna have to wait till the next class open up with, I think it's February, for them to start going through the program.
Yes, so we just gave a job offer to Stetson Ryan. He's a young man from West Bountiful. He was raised there. He wasn't born there, but he was raised there. We're pretty excited about him. He's a pretty good kid. He's already put himself through a portion of the academy, just called the Special Function Officer portion of the academy. And he was in an interim between SFO and LEO, which is the law enforcement officer portion of the academy. So he self-sponsored him through the SFO. But now that we have picked him up, we're going to sponsor him through the regular full-time academy at Post, beginning in February. So it'll be February 20th, I think, is when he'll start there, but he'll start with us on the 16th. And,
Of February or this month?
of this month, and then we will start him through our field training until he goes to the academy. He'll finish up the academy, and then once he's done with that, so we're probably into April period, when he's done with that, then we'll finish up our field training. So it'll probably be around mid-June or so before he's kind of ready to be on his own. And then, I just received a resignation of another officer just while we were in the meeting here today, effective tomorrow, so we'll be filling that position.
Now, while he's waiting for that month, I mean, when I was in the military and I was waiting for my AIT to start, and it was 5 weeks, I had kitchen patrol duty and I had to paint rocks and fill sandbags that we're gonna have Stetson do.
Yeah, so during this period, he'll start on the 16th of January,
and to go back into the academy to finish up on February 20th. He does have a limited certification, which allows him to work with a already LEO certified officer. So he can be in uniform. Obviously, we're going to put him through some training, firearms training, qualifications, stuff like that. But he's going to be more of a ride-along, learning from the officer for that period of time. They'll let him handle low-level things, kind of learning the ropes, and then he'll finish up the academy. And then once he gets done with the academy, then he'll be more of a proactive, in a more proactive training position where he's actually driving the police car, making the arrests, doing a lot more hands-on of police work under the direction and guidance of this field training officer. So we're working on that FTO program right now and getting his the assigned field training officers ready to go. So it's a long process. The process to get to here, obviously we had a written test, physical fitness, health physical, psychological, interviews. So there's quite a process to get to where we are right now. We just got word from the psychiatrist on how that went, the pre-employment evaluation went, so we feel comfortable with moving forward with him.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Any other questions for me? Thanks. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Brent. I'm not aware that we have any items for closed session tonight, so before I adjourn, I would say to the two new council members, I probably should have had you stay in the audience with your families, but you came up and you didn't do any votes beforehand, and it gave them a chance to see you sitting up here, beforehand as well too. So we didn't break any rules. I would have been told if we had. So, but thank you. Looking forward to working with all of you, and thanks staff and all others that attended tonight. Any other items that I need to bring up? All right. Well, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Council adjourned.